I was in the shower when I heard my baby scream. I ran to her room. The crib was empty. My 1-year-old daughter was gone. Then I saw her across the street in Karen's arms. The HOA president was smiling coldly and saying, "This isn't your child." Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. My hands trembled as I gripped the steering wheel, my daughter Emma's soft coos from the back seat usually calming me, but not today. Today felt different. Heavy. Like the universe was trying to warn me of something terrible lurking just around the corner. I had just moved into Willowbrook Heights 3 weeks ago. A fresh start after my divorce from Marcus, who'd walked out when I was 6 months pregnant, claiming he wasn't ready for fatherhood. The coward had left me with nothing but heartbreak and a mortgage I could barely afford. This small townhouse was all I could manage on my nurse's salary, and even that was a stretch. Emma was my everything now. My beautiful 1-year-old with her father's dark curls but my green eyes. She was the only good thing that came from that failed marriage. As I pulled into my driveway, I noticed her immediately. Karen Mitchell. The HOA president. She stood on her pristine lawn across the street, arms crossed, her thin lips pressed into a disapproving line. Her perfectly styled blonde hair didn't move an inch in the breeze, likely cemented in place with half a can of hairspray. She'd been a nightmare since day one. Complaining about my grass being a 1/4 inch too long, leaving passive-aggressive notes about my trash bins being visible from the street for 23 minutes past the allowable time. Documenting every tiny infraction like she was building a legal case. But I had bigger problems than Karen Mitchell's pettiness. I was exhausted. Double shifts at the hospital were killing me, but I needed the money. My mother had offered to help, but she lived 3 states away and had her own health issues. I was alone in this fight. I pulled Emma from her car seat, her tiny hands reaching for my face. "Mama," she babbled, and my heart melted like it did every single time. No matter how tired I was, no matter how much my feet ached from 12-hour shifts, that little voice made everything worthwhile. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you inside," I whispered, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Excuse me." Karen's shrill voice cut through the peaceful moment like nails on a chalkboard. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. "Please, not today. I just wanted to feed my daughter, give her a bath, and collapse into bed." "Yes, Mrs. Mitchell." I turned to face her, forcing a polite smile. She marched across the street, her heels clicking aggressively on the pavement. Up close, I could see the judgment in her cold blue eyes as they swept over me. My scrubs were wrinkled, my hair was falling out of its ponytail, and I probably had spit up on my shoulder. I looked exactly like what I was, a single mother barely holding it together. "Your lawn is a disgrace," she announced, gesturing dramatically at my small patch of grass. The HOA standards clearly state that lawns must be maintained to a length of no more than 3 inches. Yours is at least 4. I shifted Emma on my hip. She was getting heavy, and my arms were burning. "Mrs. Mitchell, I work nights. I'll mow it this weekend, I promise." "That's what you said last weekend. And the weekend before that." Her eyes narrowed. "You know, when I saw you moving in here, I had my doubts. Single mothers in this neighborhood tend to bring down property values." The words hit me like a slap. My cheeks burned with humiliation and anger. "Excuse me. I'm just being honest. This is a family community. We have standards." Her gaze dropped to Emma, who had buried her face in my neck, sensing the tension. "That child needs structure. Proper care. Not a mother who can't even maintain her lawn." Something dark flickered across her face as she stared at Emma. Something that made my skin crawl. "We're done here," I said firmly, turning toward my door. "The HOA will be filing another violation," she called after me. 3 violations and we can begin foreclosure proceedings." I didn't respond. I couldn't. If I opened my mouth, I'd say something I'd regret. Instead, I fumbled with my keys, got inside, and slammed the door. Emma started crying. The confrontation had upset her. "Shoo, baby, it's okay. Mama's here. Mama's got you." But as I held my daughter close, trying to soothe her tears, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The way Karen had looked at Emma wasn't just disapproval. It was something else. Something calculating. The next morning, I was sitting on my front porch with Emma, letting her play with her plastic stacking cups while I drank my coffee. The sun was warm, the birds were singing, and for the first time in weeks, I felt almost peaceful. Emma giggled as she knocked over her tower of cups, her entire face lighting up with joy. These were the moments that made all the struggle worth it. These perfect, simple moments. "Good morning." A cheerful voice called out. I looked up to see my neighbor from 2 houses down, Linda, walking her golden retriever. Linda was everything Karen wasn't: warm, kind, and genuine. She brought me cookies when I moved in and offered to babysit any time I needed help. "Morning, Linda," I smiled, waving. She approached, and her dog immediately went to Emma, gently licking her hand. Emma squealed with delight, trying to grab the dog's floppy ears. "Careful, sweetie," I laughed, pulling Emma back gently. "Be gentle with Murphy. He loves kids," Linda assured me. Then her expression turned serious. "Listen, Sarah, I wanted to warn you. Karen's been asking questions about you." My stomach dropped. "What kind of questions?" "About Emma, about whether you're really her mother." Linda looked uncomfortable. "She's been implying things to the other neighbors. Saying she's never seen Emma's father. Questioning whether a young, single woman like you could afford this house on your own. She's making it sound like something suspicious is going on." Anger surged through me, hot and fierce. "That's insane. Emma is my daughter. I have her birth certificate, her medical records, everything." "I know, honey. I know." Linda reached out and squeezed my shoulder. "I just wanted you to be aware. Karen's dangerous when she gets an idea in her head. She pushed the Hendersons out last year with her harassment. They were a lovely couple, but she decided their vegetable garden was unsightly and made their lives hell until they sold." "What is her problem?" I asked, my voice breaking slightly. Linda hesitated. "Between you and me, her daughter moved away 5 years ago and took Karen's granddaughter with her. They don't speak anymore. I think Karen did something, said something that caused the rift. Ever since then, she's been bitter and controlling. When she sees you with Emma, I think it triggers something in her." "That's not my problem," I said, but fear was creeping in. "She can't actually do anything, right? I mean, Emma is legally mine." "Just be careful," Linda warned. "Document everything. Keep your doors locked. Karen's connected in this town. Her brother is a police officer, her cousin works for Child Protective Services. She has people who owe her favors." After Linda left, I held Emma tighter. The peaceful morning had been shattered. I looked across the street at Karen's house, and there she was, standing in her window, watching us. Our eyes met, and she didn't look away. Didn't even pretend she wasn't staring. She smiled. It was not a friendly smile. That afternoon, everything changed. I had put Emma down for her nap and was finally taking a shower, the first real shower I'd had in 3 days. The hot water felt like heaven on my sore muscles. I had my eyes closed, letting the steam fill my lungs when I heard it. Emma's scream. Not her normal cry. A terrified scream that shot through me like electricity. I didn't even turn off the water. I jumped out, grabbing my robe, my wet feet slipping on the tile as I ran. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. "Emma!" I screamed, racing toward her room. The door was open. It had been closed. I always closed it when she napped. Her crib was empty. Emma. Emma, baby, where are you? Panic consumed me. Pure, absolute terror like I'd never felt before. I ran through every room, throwing open closets, looking under beds, my voice growing more hysterical with each second. Emma. Please. Emma. Then I saw it. The back door, wide open. I'd locked it. I knew I'd locked it. I ran outside, barefoot, my robe barely tied, water still dripping from my hair. Emma. Someone help. My baby. Someone took my baby. Neighbors started coming out of their houses. I ran up and down the street, looking everywhere, my voice raw from screaming. Sarah. What's wrong? It was Tom from next door. Emma's gone. Someone took her. She was sleeping and now she's gone. I was sobbing, barely able to form words. Call 911. Tom shouted to his wife. That's when I saw her. Karen. Standing in her driveway with Emma in her arms. Everything stopped. The world tilted. Give me my daughter. I screamed, running toward them. Karen stepped back, holding Emma close. My baby was crying, reaching for me, but Karen wouldn't let go. This is not your daughter, Karen said calmly, her voice loud enough for all the gathering neighbors to hear. What? Are you insane? Give her to me right now. I've been watching you, Karen continued, her voice taking on a righteous tone. You're never home. You leave this child alone for hours. I've heard her crying at all hours of the night. Today, I found her wandering in your backyard, completely unsupervised. You're an unfit mother. That's a lie. She was in her crib. You broke into my house. I lunged forward, trying to grab Emma, but Karen moved away. Don't touch me. Everyone, you're all witnesses. This woman is hysterical and violent. Two of Karen's friends moved to stand beside her, forming a protective barrier. Someone please. I turned to the other neighbors, desperate. This is my daughter. She kidnapped her from my house. But I could see the doubt in some of their faces. I was standing there in a robe, soaking wet, looking completely unhinged. Karen looked calm and collected, holding Emma like a concerned grandmother. Karen, give Sarah her baby, Linda's voice cut through the chaos. She pushed through the crowd. Right now. We all know what you're doing. I'm protecting this child, Karen said firmly. And I've already called the police and child protective services. If this woman has proof that this is her daughter, she can provide it to the authorities. Sirens wailed in the distance. No, 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 I whispered. This couldn't be happening. This could not be happening. Emma was screaming now, fighting against Karen's grip, her little arms stretched toward me. Mama, Mama. You hear that? I shouted. She's calling for me. Because I'm her mother. She's been coached to say that, Karen said smoothly. The police car pulled up. And climbing out of the driver's seat was an older officer who looked remarkably like Karen. Her brother. Linda's warning echoed in my head. Officer Mitchell, Karen called out. Thank God you're here. This woman claims this child is hers, but I found the baby wandering unsupervised. The woman has no ring, no sign of a partner. I've never seen any documentation. I believe this child may have been kidnapped or illegally obtained. That's not true. I screamed. She broke into my house and stole my baby. Officer Mitchell looked me up and down, taking in my disheveled appearance. Ma'am, I need you to calm down. Calm down. She has my daughter. Do you have identification? Birth certificate? Any proof of maternity? It's inside. In my house. Please, just let me get it. Tom, go with her, Officer Mitchell instructed my neighbor. Make sure she doesn't tamper with anything. Tamper with anything? Like I was the criminal here. I ran inside, Tom following. My hands shook so badly I could barely open my file cabinet. Birth certificate, hospital records, social security card, photographs, I grabbed everything. When I came back outside, there were now 2 CPS workers there. A woman was talking quietly with Karen, who was still holding Emma. My baby had cried herself into hiccups, her face red and wet with tears. Here. I thrust the papers at Officer Mitchell. Here's everything. Birth certificate, hospital records from when she was born, her pediatrician's information, everything. He looked through them slowly. Too slowly. These could be forged, Karen interjected. Officer, I think you should take the child into protective custody until this can be sorted out properly. No. I tried to push past Officer Mitchell, but he blocked me. Ma'am, if you don't calm down, I'll have to arrest you for disturbing the peace and assaulting an officer. I didn't assault anyone. Please. Look at the documents. Call the hospital. Emma Grace Patterson, born April 15 last year at St. Mary's Hospital. I'm right there on the birth certificate, Sarah Jane Patterson, mother. The CPS worker finally spoke up. Officer Mitchell, these documents appear legitimate. The birth certificate lists Ms. Patterson as the mother. Relief flooded through me. But Karen wasn't done. Of course she prepared false documents. She's been planning this. Officer, I'm telling you, something isn't right here. A woman that young, living alone with a baby, no family around, working all hours. I've seen cases like this on the news. Babies stolen from hospitals, sold on the black market. That's insane. I shouted. You're making this up because you hate me. Because I don't fit your perfect neighborhood image. Ms. Patterson, the CPS worker said, will need to verify these documents. In the meantime, given the concerning circumstances, we recommend placing Emma in temporary emergency foster care until. No. You can't do this. She's my daughter. I'm her mother. It will only be for a few days while we verify everything, the worker said, reaching for Emma. Please, I begged, tears streaming down my face. Please don't take her from me. She needs me. She's scared. Please. But they pried Emma from Karen's arms and headed toward the CPS car. Emma was screaming, her little voice breaking. Mama. 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 I tried to follow, but Officer Mitchell grabbed my arm. Let them do their job. She's my daughter. Those papers are real. Please, you have to believe me. Linda pushed forward. This is wrong. Sarah is that baby's mother. Karen broke into her house. I was here, I saw Karen on Sarah's property earlier today. You're mistaken, Karen said sweetly. I was in my own yard all day. You're a liar. I screamed at her. You broke into my house and stole my baby. I'm going to prove it. And when I do, you're going to jail. Karen smiled at me. That same cold smile from her window. Good luck with that, dear. By the time you prove anything, Emma will be placed with a real family. One that can actually take care of her. The CPS car drove away with my daughter inside, her screams fading into the distance. I collapsed on the ground, sobbing. My whole world had just been ripped away from me. And Karen Mitchell stood there watching, satisfaction written all over her face. I barely remember the rest of that day. Linda helped me inside, made me tea that I couldn't drink, tried to comfort me with words I couldn't hear. All I could think about was Emma. Where was she? Was she scared? Was she crying for me? The CPS worker had given me a card with a case number and told me someone would contact me within 24 hours. 24 hours. A full day without my daughter. without knowing if she was okay. I called my mother, and she immediately booked a flight for the next morning. I called a lawyer, but it was Saturday evening and I got voicemail. I left desperate messages explaining the situation. I couldn't sleep that night. Emma's crib sat empty in the next room. Her stuffed bunny lay on the floor where she dropped it during her nap. The nap that had turned into a nightmare. Around midnight, sitting in the darkness of my living room, something clicked in my brain. I stopped crying and started thinking. Karen had planned this. She'd somehow gotten into my house while I was in the shower. How? I'd locked all the doors. I always locked the doors. I walked through my house, checking every window, every door. Everything was locked now, but in my panic, had I locked the back door after running outside? I couldn't remember. Wait. I went to my back door and examined it closely. The lock was old, one of those simple twist locks. I grabbed my phone and started Googling. It took 5 minutes to find a video showing how to pick this exact type of lock with a credit card. Karen had let herself in. Walked right into my home while I was in the shower, taken Emma from her crib, and carried her out the back door. Then she'd positioned herself in front of her house, waiting for me to discover Emma was missing so she could play the hero who found my wandering child. It was calculated. Premeditated, evil. But how could I prove it? I spent the entire night thinking, planning. By the time the sun rose, I had a strategy. First, I called the hospital where Emma was born and requested copies of all records to be sent to CPS. Then I called Emma's pediatrician and did the same. I gathered every photograph I had of Emma from birth to now, hundreds of them on my phone, showing her growth, her life with me. When my mother arrived at noon, she wrapped me in a hug and let me cry for 10 minutes straight. Then she pulled back, looked me in the eye, and said, "Now we fight. Tell me everything." I explained everything, Karen's harassment, the HOA violations, Linda's warning, the kidnapping. "That woman broke into your home and stole your baby," my mother said, her voice shaking with rage. "We're not letting her get away with this." The lawyer called back Monday morning. Her name was Patricia Chen, and she listened to everything without interrupting. "Do you have any cameras?" she asked. "Security footage?" "No," I admitted. "I couldn't afford a security system." "What about neighbors? Anyone who might have cameras facing your property?" "I hadn't thought of that." "I don't know. Maybe. Find out. We need to prove Karen was on your property. We need to prove she had access to your house." Patricia paused. "Sarah, I have to be honest with you. This is going to be hard. Karen has connections. Her brother is a cop. Her cousin works for CPS. The caseworker assigned to you is probably someone she knows. So what do I do?" "We escalate. We go above the local CPS office. We demand a full investigation. We file a police report against Karen for breaking and entering, kidnapping, and filing a false report. And we pray that there's someone in the system who will actually look at the evidence instead of just trusting Karen's word." My mother and I spent that day going door to door. Most neighbors were sympathetic but hadn't seen anything. Their cameras faced the street, not my backyard. Then we got to the Johnson's house, directly behind mine. Mrs. Johnson answered, and she looked nervous. "I heard what happened," she said quietly. "I'm so sorry." "Do you have security cameras?" my mother asked. "Anything that might face Sarah's backyard?" Mrs. Johnson hesitated, then nodded. "We have a camera on our back porch. It covers our yard, but it might catch part of yours too." Hope surged in my chest. "Can we see the footage from Saturday? Please." She invited us in and pulled up the footage on her laptop. We fast-forwarded through the morning, watching the timer in the corner. Then, at 2:47 p.m., right around the time I would have been in the shower, a figure appeared. Karen Mitchell, walking through my backyard toward my back door. "Oh my God," Mrs. Johnson whispered. We watched as Karen approached my door, pulled something from her pocket, and worked on the lock for about 30 seconds. The door opened. She went inside. 3 minutes later, she emerged carrying Emma, who was clearly crying and struggling. Karen walked through my yard, disappeared around the side of my house, and headed toward her own property. "I've got her," I breathed. "I've got proof." Mrs. Johnson immediately copied the footage to a USB drive. "Take this to the police. This is kidnapping. This is evidence." We went straight to the police station. Not Officer Mitchell's station, but the next town over. We filed a report and handed over the video evidence. The detective who took our statement watched the video 3 times. "This is clear breaking and entering and kidnapping," he said. "We'll coordinate with Child Protective Services. With this evidence, you should get your daughter back immediately." But it wasn't immediate. It took 3 more days of legal battles. Karen hired a lawyer who claimed the video was doctored. Her brother vouched for her character. The local CPS worker dragged her feet on processing the evidence. Those were the worst 3 days of my life. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't function. My mother held me together, literally forcing me to drink water and eat small bites of food. Patricia filed emergency motions. The hospital and pediatrician sent their records, all confirming Emma was my biological daughter. Patricia even tracked down Marcus, my useless ex-husband, who confirmed on a notarized statement that Emma was our daughter from our marriage. Finally, on Thursday afternoon, 5 days after Emma had been taken from me, I got the call. "You can pick up your daughter," Patricia said. "CPS is releasing her back to you." "And Sarah?" "The police arrested Karen Mitchell an hour ago." I broke down sobbing. My mother drove me to the CPS office because I was shaking too badly to drive. And then I saw her. My baby. Emma was in a foster mother's arms, and the moment she saw me, she screamed, "Mama," and reached for me with both arms. They handed her to me, and I held her so tight. She was thinner. Her hair wasn't brushed properly. She had a bruise on her arm that made my blood boil. But she was alive. She was here. She was mine. Emma buried her face in my neck and cried, her little hands fisting in my shirt like she'd never let go. "Mama, Mama, Mama," she kept saying, over and over. "I've got you, baby. Mama's got you. I'm never letting you go. Never." Karen's arrest made local news. HOA president arrested for kidnapping, breaking and entering, filing false police report. The video from the Johnsons' camera was played on every local channel. The image of Karen sneaking through my yard and breaking into my home was now public knowledge. The neighborhood turned on her completely. People who had once attended her HOA meetings now avoided her. Someone spray-painted "Child Stealer" on her driveway. Her perfect lawn was vandalized. She had to hire a lawyer, and from what Linda told me, it was costing her everything. But it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. That woman had put me through hell. She'd stolen my daughter and traumatized her. Emma now woke up screaming every night, terrified I'd be gone. She couldn't be in a room alone. If I stepped out of her sight for even a second, she panicked. Karen had broken something in both of us, and I wanted her to pay for every single second of suffering she'd caused. The criminal trial was scheduled for 3 months later. Patricia helped me file a civil lawsuit as well, suing Karen for emotional distress, trauma to Emma, legal fees, lost wages from missing work, everything. In the meantime, I learned more about Karen's past. Linda had been right, Karen's daughter, Michelle, had cut off all contact 5 years ago. I managed to track Michelle down through social media and sent her a message explaining what had happened. She called me the next day, and what she told me made everything click into place. "My mother is mentally ill," Michelle said. She's always been controlling, but after my daughter Sophie was born, it got so much worse. She'd show up at our house unannounced, rearrange things, criticize everything I did. She told me I was an unfit mother. She tried to call CPS on me twice, making up lies about neglect. Why didn't you report her? I did. But she has connections. Her brother, her cousin. Nothing ever stuck. Finally, I moved 3 states away and changed my phone number. I haven't spoken to her in 5 years, and my daughter doesn't even remember her grandmother. Michelle's voice cracked. I'm so sorry she did this to you. When I saw the news, I felt sick. I should have warned people. I should have done something. It's not your fault, I assured her. But would you be willing to testify at her trial? Tell the jury about her history? Absolutely. I'll do anything to make sure she can't hurt anyone else. The trial finally came. I took the stand and told my story, breaking down multiple times as I described hearing Emma scream, finding her crib empty, the terror of thinking I'd lost her forever. The jury watched the security footage. You could see the shock on their faces as Karen casually broke into my home and took my daughter. Multiple neighbors testified about Karen's harassment of me and other residents. Michelle testified about her own experiences with her mother's instability. The prosecution argued that Karen had become obsessed with Emma, seeing her as a replacement for the granddaughter she'd lost. That she'd manufactured a situation to make me look like an unfit mother so she could take Emma for herself. Karen's lawyer tried to paint her as a concerned neighbor who'd made a mistake. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. When the verdict was read, Karen's face went white. She looked around the courtroom like she was searching for someone to save her. But there was no one. Even her brother, Officer Mitchell, wasn't there. He'd been suspended from the police force for his role in mishandling the initial investigation. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. On sentencing day, the courtroom was packed. I'd written a victim impact statement, and Patricia had helped me prepare to deliver it. The judge asked if I wanted to speak. I stood up, my legs shaking, and approached the microphone. Your Honor, I began, my voice stronger than I felt. Karen Mitchell didn't just kidnap my daughter for a few days. She stole something from both of us that we'll never fully get back. Emma was 1 year old when this happened. She's now almost 18 months, and she still wakes up screaming every night. She panics if I leave her sight. She's terrified of people with blonde hair. She's in therapy, and she'll likely need therapy for years. I turned to look directly at Karen. She wouldn't meet my eyes. You saw a young single mother and decided I didn't deserve my child. You decided you knew better. You used your power and your connections to try to destroy my life. You broke into my home. You stole my baby while she slept. You made her scream in terror. You held her while she cried for me and refused to give her back. You tried to convince the world that I wasn't her real mother. My voice rose, anger finally breaking through. You put my daughter in the foster care system. She was in a stranger's home, scared and alone, crying for me, and I couldn't get to her. For 5 days, I didn't know if she was eating, if she was being held when she cried, if she thought I'd abandoned her. Do you have any idea what that feels like? Do you have any concept of the damage you've done? Karen's shoulders started shaking. She was crying now. Good. Let her cry. Your daughter cut you out of her life because of your behavior. Instead of getting help, instead of recognizing that you needed to change, you decided to steal someone else's child. You decided to play God with my family. And you nearly succeeded because you had connections and power. I turned back to the judge. Your Honor, I'm asking you to give Karen Mitchell the maximum sentence. Not just for what she did to me and Emma, but to send a message that this kind of abuse of power will not be tolerated. That wealthy, connected people can't just take what they want and destroy whoever stands in their way. The judge listened to my entire statement, then heard from other victims, the Hendersons, who Karen had harassed out of the neighborhood, and 2 other families with similar stories of her abuse of power. Then he delivered his sentence. Mrs. Mitchell, in my 30 years on the bench, I have rarely seen such a calculated, cruel act. You didn't just make a mistake. You planned and executed the kidnapping of a 1-year-old child. You used your position and connections to try to separate a mother from her daughter permanently. The evidence shows you have a pattern of this behavior, and you show no remorse. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. I'm sentencing you to the maximum, 15 years in prison for kidnapping, 3 years for breaking and entering to run consecutively, and 5 years probation after release. Additionally, you are permanently barred from holding any position in a homeowners association, prohibited from contact with the victim and her family, and required to pay restitution for all legal fees, therapy costs, and emotional damages. 15 years. Karen Mitchell would be in prison for 15 years. She let out a wail, and her lawyer had to help her stay standing. She turned to look at me one last time, and the hatred in her eyes was clear. She still believed she'd done nothing wrong. She still saw herself as the victim. But she was going to prison. That was all that mattered. The civil trial came 3 months later, and the jury awarded me $800,000 in damages. Karen would have to sell her perfect house, her perfect car, everything. She'd be financially ruined on top of the prison sentence. A year has passed since that nightmare. Emma is now 2.5 years old, and while she still has hard days, she's getting better. The night terrors have decreased. She can be in a room without me for short periods. She started preschool and is making friends. I used part of the settlement money to move us out of Willowbrook Heights. We now live in a small house with a big backyard, with friendly neighbors who actually care about each other rather than property values and lawn height. I also used the money to cut back on my hours at the hospital. I'm home more now, able to be the present mother Emma deserves. We've both been in therapy, processing the trauma together. Linda still visits us regularly. She testified at both trials, refusing to let Karen's connections intimidate her. She's become like a grandmother to Emma. Michelle, Karen's daughter, has also become a friend. We bonded over our shared experience with Karen's abuse. She actually moved back to the area with her daughter Sophie, and Emma and Sophie have playdates. It's healing for Michelle to see her mother finally facing consequences. The HOA at Willowbrook Heights dissolved after Karen's arrest. It turns out she'd been embezzling funds and manipulating elections to stay in power. Her arrest exposed a whole network of corruption. Her brother lost his job with the police force. Her cousin was fired from CPS. The whole rotten system came crashing down. I saw Karen one more time, about 6 months into her sentence. I'd been asked to speak at a victims' rights conference, and they arranged for me to visit the prison where she was being held if I wanted closure. I almost didn't go. But I realized I had things I needed to say to her face. They brought her into the visitor's room in Prison Orange, her hair now gray at the roots without her expensive salon treatments. She looked older, smaller somehow. Less powerful. We sat across from each other with a table between us. She wouldn't look at me at first. I don't forgive you, I said simply. I'm never going to forgive you. But I need you to understand something. You lost. You tried to destroy my family, and you lost. Emma is thriving. She's happy. She's loved. And she's with her real mother, me. Karen finally looked up, and I saw tears in her eyes. I just wanted to protect her, she whispered. You were so young, so alone. I thought I could give her a better life. You thought you could steal someone else's child because you destroyed your relationship with your own daughter, I corrected. You didn't want to protect Emma. You wanted to replace Sophie. Emma wasn't a person to you, she was an object, a prize you thought you deserved. That's not true. It is true. And the worst part? You still don't get it. You still think you were the hero of this story. You still think you did nothing wrong. I stood up. 15 years, Karen. You have 15 years to figure out where you went wrong. I hope you use that time to become a better person. But honestly, I don't care. You're not my problem anymore. You're just a cautionary tale I tell at conferences about how abuse of power destroys lives. I walked out and never looked back. Today, Emma and I are living our best life. She's in my lap right now as I type this, eating a popsicle and telling me about the butterflies she saw in the garden. She's wearing her favorite purple dress, and her hair is in pigtails that I definitely didn't do evenly, but she loves them anyway. She's safe. She's loved. She's mine. And Karen Mitchell is exactly where she belongs, behind bars, powerless, forgotten. Sometimes trauma has a way of showing you what really matters. That nightmare taught me that I'm stronger than I ever knew. It showed me who my real friends are. It proved that even when the system is broken, if you fight hard enough, the truth will win. Emma is my daughter. She always was, and she always will be. No HOA president, no corrupt system, no abuse of power could ever change that. And that's how this story ends, not with the villain winning, but with justice served and a mother and daughter living happily, freely, and together. Right where we belong.